Hey guys, it's good to see you. It's Ryan here with dpmarketing.services and author on the book on digital marketing for plumbing and HVAC contractors. Hope you're doing good, staying safe, all those fun things. Good to see you. Appreciate your time tuning in because I know you are a busy person. Hey, coming at your video. So we've had a lot of guys obviously looking for improving their Google My Business ranking or map ranking. So if you're not real familiar, if somebody does a search like HVAC near me or plumber near me, something like that, they're often picking a business on the map section. A whole lot of people do that search. In some markets, that's either the number one or number two most common search for term. And so they're not usually clicking on an ad. They're not usually scrolling to organic when they do a search like that. They're just making a decision based on that map pack, like the view of the businesses. And if you're not real familiar, there are right now, so Google's always experimenting how many businesses they show in the map section, but right now it's 3 businesses and sometimes a 4th if there's an ad. So it's always 3, sometimes 4 in that map section. And a lot of people are like, how do I get there? Because there's really good traffic there. So buy the book. There are some things you want to know about kind of getting that stuff taken care of. So one, if you haven't done it yet, I assume you have, set up a Google My Business page. Go to google.com/business. It'll walk you through all the steps. They send a postcard, blah, blah, blah. You want to make sure everything is complete on there. Do not, it's called keyword stuff. Things like the description or the business title. So for instance, if you're in St. Louis and you're a plumber, don't be like John's Plumbing / St. Louis Plumber in the title. And then in the description of the business, be like St. Louis Plumber, Plumbing St. Louis. Don't do that either. Google's guidelines say that they want you to represent the business name and services as it exists in the real world. So unless you have logoed trucks running around saying St. Louis Plumber on them, don't do that on your GMB. Yes, you will totally see people doing it. Yes, those will also be prone to suspension at some point. So don't do that. Make sure you have the name, your service address, your service areas, the types of jobs you want to do, details about the description. The more info, the better. Use information that's common to your area. So for instance, if you're in St. Louis, give an idea of your service area. Like, hey, we do everything inside of 270. It helps Google help you have those words to pull out. Also, make sure you have unique, high-quality photos that you throw in your profile. And by unique, I mean they are you and of your business. Don't focus. A lot of guys like default to taking pictures of like holes in the ground or like metal boxes on the side of houses. Your customers don't know what those are. You might be super proud of the fact you just dug a huge trench. Your customers don't care. You might be really proud of this breaker panel you just wired. Your customer doesn't care. Focus on customer facing images. So collect your text showing up clean, professional uniform, their shirts tucked in, they're wearing belts, they've got booties on. If you're in an area that's really mindful of things with COVID, maybe you have with and without mask options of your techs. Smiling technicians, clean hands, smiling homeowners. Bonus points, think about your target persona. So what are the types of customers you want more of? And stage photos in front of houses like that, right? So if you say, hey, our customers are really affluent, they're in these neighborhoods, awesome. Don't go somewhere else to get photos of different customers in front of different houses because that's not your target persona. Try to get photos of your team that's actually in front of your target customer's house. They tend to work better. There are some things you can do in those photos, like making sure you name them for the services you do. For instance, St. Louis-plumber.jpg. We have enough data that says that Google really likes that. So make sure everything's complete there. The other thing is you want to make sure that you get reviews. So we know that Google farms data from the reviews. So not just if you watch any of our videos, it's not the total number of reviews, right? It's not like, hey, do you have 100 or do you have 1,000 or whatever. It's recency and frequency. That's it. How recently do you get reviews and how frequently do you get reviews? If you can get a steady stream of reviews, Google tends to harvest the words from those reviews to help understand more about what you do. So if a customer tells a story about something, if they say so-and-so came out to our house and they took care of our water heater, Google crawls that. The same is true with your review responses. If you can find ways to naturally lace in details about your service area or the services you provide in your review responses, we also know Google crawls that. So there's a lot of things you can do on the actual Google My Business page. The other thing, we know that in that sort of near me ranking, Google also looks at websites. So make sure that you have language on your website that talks about the services and the service area that you are in. If your website doesn't say anything about water heaters, you're going to struggle getting a water heater repair near me sort of search result, right? It's just not going to happen. Make sure you also crawl that. Here's another thing that a lot of people don't realize. When you're trying to improve the ranking on your Google My Business location, again, remember, you only got 3. You got 3 and maybe a 4th. So it's really dense competition there. The visibility of your business at large also influences the ranking of that. In other words, things like traditional organic SEO for helping your website, which is not on the map pack, your website, the more visible your website, the more visible it makes your map pack rankings. So think about these as not necessarily being entirely standalone buckets. They are very different. Like, don't get them confused. However, the work and benefit of working on the visibility of your website helps improve the benefit and visibility of your Google My Business page, right? So that's fantastic. We have a lot of guys thinking about, hey, do they want multiple Google My Business pages? Will that help them get more leads? Yes, it will help you get more leads. Here's the big danger. Increasingly, Google is flagging multiple, especially this is true with plumbing companies. It's becoming more true with HVAC companies. If they see multiple listings in a similar area, it is very likely that they might flag that for suspension. Reason being, they think that it's not a legit location. So if you go, well, Google doesn't like businesses in the same proximity, that's not exactly true. Think about a Starbucks. There's a whole lot of towns where there's Starbucks on the same block, sometimes other sides of the street. It's not exactly true that Google doesn't like businesses in the same area. What is true is Google has identified that there are people who tend to offend and push the boundaries on what they would consider by the guidelines for representing themselves on Google My Business. Plumbing companies, locksmiths, HVAC shops are in those categories that tend to push those boundaries a bit further. So Google tends to be more aware of the likelihood that those locations are not legit. So to help get around that, we would highly recommend get a physical brick and mortar location. It doesn't have to be a 30,000 square foot facility. It can just be a 400 square foot office. Just something that you can see the address on the door and put your logo on the door that's visible from the street. Like that by itself is sufficient in a lot of cases to prove that you're a real business. Don't get a temporary mailbox, location or a UPS store. Don't go around those roads. Think about how do you actually create an actual physical presence that you can put a logo on, and take photos of it. Put a fake staging area for your customers to sit in. No customers are ever going to walk in, but what you're trying to do is get enough data that you can tell Google, look, our business operates here. Here's our office. Here's where customers can sit. Here's our logo on the door that says what we do, blah, blah, blah. If you want to use it for stocking parts and tools, knock yourself out. But I can't recommend using a shadow location or a rent-a office or rent-a box sort of solution for a GMB, because worst case scenario is you get that business suspended and any other business associated with your business suspended, and then you're screwed. And frankly, in this day and age, you can't afford to not have visibility on the map section. So that's a couple thoughts. If I were to kind of lump in these things that you might or might not already be doing after you get a Google My Business, flesh out details. Think through everything from name, address, phone number, services, natural language with the job descriptions. Use high quality photos. The more the better. Don't do 1 or 2 or 3. Do 200 if you want. But again, don't focus on the holes in the ground or the giant metal boxes on the sides of a customer's house. Focus on things that your customer can identify with in front of your actual target customer's sort of persona, like your target customer's house, right? Make it look like them. Make sure that you're working on traditional SEO for your website. Those things tend to help. Make sure you are getting reviews recently and frequently. Make sure you're responding to those reviews and using natural keyword language backend response. Make sure the language on your website has the natural keyword language throughout the website. And then, frankly, totally consider getting multiple Google My Businesses. Like, it's a legit thing that works. Just make sure you don't try to cut corners, because if you get shadow banned from Google, it is bad news bears, and you don't want to be in that spot. So do everything above board. I'm going to send the guidelines for Google My Business. I'm going to put it in the description of this so you can kind of look on your own. But these are provided by Google, so it's not us or someone else trying to pitch you on something. These are, as of this date, the guidelines that Google has posted, and if that changes, then hopefully that link will change. But I'm curious to know about your thoughts. Do you have multiple GMB? How's it work for you? What nightmares have you had? I know a lot of guys have had nightmares with that. I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below. As always, guys, follow us on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube. Stay safe out there. We'll see you next time.